Hi everyone, my name is Anna Davis. I am a full-time grad student at Northeastern State University. I have Sarah Turner McGowan for Research and Design. For our final presentation, we were asked to make a presentation over a topic that we thought needed to be brought to the eye of society, a research topic. So for my research topic, I have chosen the gender wage gap or the gender pay gap, whichever one you prefer to call it. So for my introduction, I kind of wanted to go over what the gender wage / pay gap is for those of you who do not know what it is. The gender wage gap is the gap between what men and women are paid. Most commonly, it refers to the median annual pay of all women who work full-time and year-round, compared to the pay of those of men. We as women make 80 cents to a man's dollar, so we're getting paid 20 cents less than men. Other estimates of the gender pay gap are based on weekly and hourly earnings or are specific to a particular group of women, such as race, ethnicity, what have you. The gender pay gap is the result of many factors, including occupational segregation, bias against working mothers, any direct discrimination to pay. Additionally, such things as racial bias, disability, access to education, and age come into play with this. Education really isn't one of those things anymore. Women are going to the same colleges, making the same grades, if not better, and getting the same jobs as men. We're just making less money. Consequently, different groups of women experience very different gaps in pay. Like I said, different ethnicities really come into factor with this, and it's really disturbing. I will show you a chart later on in this paper that goes over just what different races and ethnicities are getting paid. The gender wage gap is a stubborn fixture of our economic landscape, but new research shows that the reality of today's wage gap is more complicated than the figure often talks about. In states such as Louisiana, last year in 2017, they were the highest state, and the lowest state was California. Women only make 80 cents to a man's dollar. In fact, the gap might actually be much worse, yet much simpler to fix than we assume. So for this assignment, I really wanted to find multiple articles to back up my research. So the first article that caught my eye was The Simple Truth About the Gender Wage Gap by Deborah J. Vagins. Throughout her article, Vagins discusses issues contributing to the gap, how it has narrowed since 1960 when this was first brought into light, and what closing the wage gap can do for our economy. The next article I chose was The Gender Income Gap and the Role of Education by Donna Robert Zaire. In the article, Zaire states, would further educational changes matter for closing any existing gap? In her findings, it shows the gap would still be substantial if women and men had similar educational credentials. So what do we do? How do we fix it? And she goes over all of that in her article. So for this research, I decided the best place to go was social media. Social media is moving mountains for political and everything else. I found that Twitter and Instagram worked best since those social media outlets use hashtags the most. If you use hashtag gender wage gap, Desi Lydic from The Daily Show with Trevor Noah is going to be one of the first people to pop up on your newsfeed. She is incredible. She discusses the wage gap and everything that goes with it on her Twitter and also on her Instagram page, and I will add the links to this video. She really puts into perspective what the wage gap is, and she does it in both a millennial mindset and a different mindset. So most millennials don't understand what they're getting paid. They don't realize that they're getting paid less than men. Men are more confident in the fact that they ask those questions. They want to know how much they're getting paid. They want to know why they're getting paid less. And women, we kind of shy away from those confrontational questions, or we just don't realize what we're getting paid. Throughout other research assignments in this class, I found this topic falls under quantitative research. The best way to get answers for the gender wage gap is to do surveys and ask questions and interview different women. We're never going to know how the gender wage gap affects different women if we don't interview different ethnicity groups, different women on different pay levels, so CEOs all the way down to the janitors. We have to figure out how this is affecting everybody. But most importantly, by using the 4 quantitative methods, descriptive, correlational, quasi-experimental, and experimental information, we're going to really be able to dive right into this method and get some research done. Questions to ask during my research included, how do you think this affects you? What do you think the differences are? How much do you know about the gender wage gap? What can we do to fix it? I asked 3 different women 3 different questions and to see what their answers were for each. For interviews, I decided to interview, like I said, 3 different women from 3 different ethnicities. All 3 women had heard of the gender wage gap but didn't really know what it was about or that they could do anything to fix it or that it was even affecting them. They all said it doesn't seem to be an issue to the public as they aren't trying to change it. They didn't feel like. They said that if they saw it on their news feed more or on the news even at all, they thought that it would become a bigger issue and they just didn't really seem like we were that serious about it. Well, I agree the media hasn't hyped it up to the extreme like they have other causes. It shouldn't just be up to the media. It has to be up to us as women to put it on our social media, put it on our news feed, send in articles to our local news stations to get it going, to get people showing what this person makes at the same job, why this woman is getting paid less than the man at the same position. It is up to us to really get the ball rolling because nobody's going to do it for us. So the gender pay gap is the result of many factors, including occupational segregation, like I said earlier. The gender pay gap varies substantially from state to state due to such factors as the primary industries in the state and the opportunities they create, demographics such as race, ethnicity, age, educational levels, like I've said before, regional differences in attitudes and beliefs about work and gender. So about work and gender, that's going to be if you have a gay worker or if you have anybody in the LGBTQ community, they are going to basically tell you that you're going to get paid less for doing that, and that's not okay. Religion, we've said for years, has not played a role, but let's face it, religion is one of the biggest factors in this besides ethnicity. Differences in the scope and strength of state, pay, discrimination laws, and policies also have a really big factor in this. So in 2017, the state with the largest gap was Louisiana, like I said earlier, which had a gender pay gap of, wait for it, 69%. The state with the smallest gap, surprisingly to me, was California. I thought California would be up towards the top. I did not think that they would be the lowest state. So they only had a pay gap of 89%, which is awesome. That means women are only getting paid 11% less, or 11 cents less than men. That's phenomenal. For correlation information, I had to dig and find 2 or more variables. I then realized that the gender wage gap affects more than one race. So right there, that was my 2 variables. It shows different races and how different genders are affected by the gap. So if you can see right here, so Hispanics and Latinos are getting paid 53%, Blacks and African Americans 61%, white and non-Hispanic are 77%, Asian are 85%, American Indian or Alaskan Native, they're getting paid 58%, and then Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islanders are getting paid 62%. So this wage gap is affecting everybody in very drastic ways. I mean, it's not just affecting me and you, it's affecting everybody. So for my quasi-experimental information, the prefix quasi means resembling. Thus, that information, research is research that resembles experimental research but is not true experimental research. So how does this have to do, what does this have to do with the gender wage gap? So a form of quasi-experimental research is non-equivalent group design. One way would be to conduct a study with a treatment group consisting of one class of third grade students and a control group consisting of another class of third grade students. This design would be a non-equivalent group design because the students are not randomly assigned to classes by the researcher, which means there could be important differences between them. So let's take that and let's put that into the concept of the gender wage gap. We are conducting an experiment with women, all kinds of different women. Women aren't randomly assigned to a specific class. They're born women. They're born that way, which means there are more important differences between them, such as race. So that is why the quasi-experimental research has to do with the gender wage gap. And I will attach another link here to the video that goes with that. So for experimental information, experimental is another word to describe randomized controlled trials. We are randomly choosing women to participate in our questionnaire, but the problem is still there. We aren't creating a factor, we aren't creating a problem, the problem is there. We are just randomly drawing the women to participate in our experiment. The big picture takeaway is that all these concepts will help band us all together and we will end the gender wage gap. We know that somewhat isn't true. We do, however, know that the information we have and the amount of women in the U.S. is true. We have to utilize all the factors we can and find new women who don't know what the gender wage gap is and inform them. By banding together and telling your sister, your friend's sister, telling every woman that you come in contact with to an extent, but telling every woman that you know that this is a problem can help create a movement to solve this. As women, we have to use our voice and statistics to make the movement happen. The data we have gathered shows the issue is real and what it is doing to all different races. Over the years, we have gathered more and more information. Just as Deborah J. Vagin stated, the gap has narrowed since 1960 due largely to women's progress in education and workforce participation and to men's wages rising at a slower rate. Over time, we will find new ways to solve the issue, but at the same time, the issue will continue to grow, giving us more ground to cover. The only limit we have to society is if we have individuals who don't want to help or fight us, who don't want to pass bills to make sure that women are getting paid more, who don't want to pass bills that women can, get this job, can do this. Up until about 5 to 7 years ago, women couldn't even be truck drivers. And that movement started, and now we have women truck drivers all over the United States, all over everywhere. So it just starts with one person. One person can really make a difference. And for my final tidbit on the video, I have a picture here showing that it's 80%. So that is what we are making, and that is what men are making. We are making that much less, which is crazy. It really does add up. Most people think it doesn't, but it really does. So thank you guys for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you will follow my links that are attached to the video to get more information. And if you have any information that you want to give me, please attach it or comment below. Thank you guys.